Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. My name is Julian, and today I'm going to be talking about players that you can consider dropping from your fantasy hockey team for week 10 of the season. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I would really appreciate the support. Now, also before we start, guys, I just want to let you know that all the players that you're going to see in this video were not featured in last week's video, except for the goalies. And you can watch that video right up there, guys. It's still very relevant, and a lot of those players should still be dropped from your team. So jumping into some forwards that you can consider dropping, first on the list is Yanni Gourde, Tampa Bay Lightning, 55% owned. And the nice thing about Gourde is that he has the center, left wing, and right wing eligibility, but he was recently lowered back to the third line. Yes, he's been on an absolute tear lately, but that's not likely to continue. I would hold him until he does slow down a little bit, but it shouldn't be in that long because the opportunities he's getting aren't that amazing. Next is Kevin Hayes, Philadelphia Flyers, 49% owned, and in shallower leagues, this guy can be dropped. He has 1 point in his last 7 games, and Philadelphia as a whole is kind of not doing so great right now, so until they right the ship, Kevin Hayes can be safely dropped in a lot of shallower leagues. Next is Drake Batherson, Ottawa Senators, 39% owned. He was mass added when he was on his little tear, but since then he hasn't done all that great. He has no points in his last 4 games, and I think 39% owned is a little bit rich for my liking. Next is Blake Coleman, Tampa Bay Lightning, 37% owned, and I don't absolutely hate Blake Coleman, but especially in points leagues, he's not that useful, and I don't think he should be 37% owned. He's a third liner, and he doesn't get any power play time at all. Next is Andre Burakovsky, Colorado Avalanche, 34% owned, and a couple of weeks ago, he was on my ad list. But, I told him you can add Burakovsky until he cools down because he's the kind of guy that, when he's on a high, he does well. And as soon as he cools down, he's not worth owning anymore on your team. And, well, he's cooled down now. He only has 1 point in his last 4 games. And Colorado's been scoring a lot, so he probably should have more, but he doesn't. So he's a pretty easy and safe drop right now. Next is Christian Dvorak, Arizona Coyotes, 30% owned. And he has 0 points in his last 9 games. The only thing he's good for right now is face-off wins. He's one of the best in the league. But other than that, I mean, he's pretty useless. He's really not doing a whole lot of anything. He can be safely dropped in all but the deepest of leagues that need face-off wins. Next is Jonathan Drouin, and basically every other low ownership Montreal Canadian. They don't play a single game this week because of the canceled games, so you can pretty much drop all your low ownership Canadians. Guys like Jake Allen, Kotkaniemi, Dano, Armia, and even Tatar in shallower leagues can be dropped this week. Next is Jonas Donskoy, Colorado Avalanche, 19% owned. He's been on a little bit of a tear lately, although in his last game he didn't do a whole lot besides a shootout goal, which doesn't usually count for much in fantasy hockey. So, while he's hot, yeah, you could stream him, but I don't absolutely love the deployment for him. He does get second power play time, which isn't terrible, but, once he starts slowing down, he's a very easy drop, and I think that's going to be very soon. Next is Scott Laughton, Philadelphia Flyers, 18% owned, and he doesn't seem to be getting the best opportunities in Philly. Philly has actually 4 pretty decent lines offensively, and he doesn't get any power play time. So if you're in a deep league, fine. Laughton is a decent option. Other than that, you can drop Scott Laughton. Next is Calle Jarnkrok, Nashville Predators, 11% owned, and there was a 3-game stretch in which he got 7 points, including 5 goals. He was on an absolute tear, but he's not that great of a player, and I told you this in my last ad video. I said you can add him, but don't expect him to be as great as he was last week. He's not that great of a player. He will slow down very soon, and he already has. You can drop him. Now on to some defensemen. First on my list is Justin Folk, St. Louis Blues, 74% owned, and this is mostly just for points leagues because he's not really putting up a crazy amount of points right now. He's never really been a crazy points guy. So 74% owned just seems a little bit high given that St. Louis is not really playing that well right now, and he's not putting up points. Next is Mackenzie Weegar, Florida Panthers, 63% owned, and honestly, his production doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Over the last couple of games, he doesn't have any points, but before that, he was really pouring on the points every single game. And the reality of what happened is that he was collecting a lot of secondary assists, which aren't really telling of how great a player is. Sometimes you just get lucky and you happen to touch the puck, and then the person who ends up getting the primary assist gets a nice pass or whatever it is. So I think he was the benefactor of some luck, although he does get a lot of ice time. So in, deep leagues, absolutely hold on to Mackenzie Weegar. He's going to continue to get a lot of ice time. And he does pretty good with that ice time that he gets. But he still doesn't get really any power play time, so the production that he has been putting out is very unsustainable. I would drop him, especially if you're in a shallower league. Next is Philip Hronek, Detroit Red Wings, 28% owned, and he was really mass added last week because he had 8 points in a 4-game stretch, which is really great. But since then, he has no points in 3 games, so he seems to have cooled off. So you can go ahead and drop him, although I would keep him in deeper leagues because he still is getting a lot of power play time. It is for Detroit, but it's something. Next is Jonas Brodin, Minnesota Wild, 25% owned, and he seems to have dipped a lot lately. He's not getting power play time anymore, so, he's not going to be as valuable as he used to be. In deep leagues, sure, hold on to him, but if you're in a shallower league, don't bother with him anymore. Next is Ryan McDonagh, Tampa Bay Lightning, 14% owned, and he's been pretty decent with blocks all season long, although lately he kind of dipped off, and now he's injured, so at this point, there's no reason to hold on to Ryan McDonagh in basically any league. Next is Esa Lindell, Dallas Stars, 13% owned. And unless I'm mistaken, Dallas Stars refer to him as the black hole of offense because he doesn't do a whole lot offensively. He's been a minus player a lot too, which doesn't help for pools that count plus minus. Yeah, he blocks a few shots, but that's not enough to justify having him on your team. He can be safely dropped. All right, so now jumping into some goalies. I'm not going to suggest dropping Carter Hart just yet. I'm going to give him another week and a half, 2 weeks, just figure himself out and, turn his season around. If he doesn't, then I probably will suggest him as a drop, but I still think Carter Hart is a really good goalie, and he's just falling on some hard times. So first on this guy is Chris Driedger, Florida Panthers, 45% owned, and he lost his last game. He played okay, but I still think Bobrovsky owns the crease in Florida, so a 45% ownership for Driedger just seems too high for me. Next is Alex Nedeljkovic, Carolina Hurricanes, 39% owned, and he's been absolutely great ever since Mrazek's been injured. He's been starting every second game, and he's been playing very, very well. The only reason I'm suggesting dropping him is because Mrazek should be back soon. So just keep your eye on that for when Mrazek does come back. When he does, you're going to have to drop Nedeljkovic kind of by default because he's going to be the number 3 goalie. So unless they do like the Rangers did last year and start 3 goalies for the rest of the season, I don't see Nedeljkovic getting any starts at all. Next is Braden Holtby, Vancouver Canucks, 36% owned. And Demko has been unreal. Although last game, he choked a little bit. He wasn't as great. But overall, Demko has been one of the best goalies in the entire NHL. And there's really no point to holding Holtby any longer. He's going to get only the back-to-back games, so 36% owned is way too high. Next is Pavel Francouz, Colorado Avalanche, 31% owned. And there has not been really any update on him the entire season. At this point, it might be safe to say that he's not going to play the entire year. So the only reason that you were holding on to him in the first place probably is that if you were a Grubauer owner and was worried that when Francouz came back that he would split the starts. But at this point, it's worth just dropping Francouz. I did it in my pool. I'm a Grubauer owner, and I was like, at this point, it looks like Grubauer is going to start the rest of the games for the rest of the year. So there's no point holding Francouz on your IR anymore. Next is Casey DeSmith, Pittsburgh Penguins, 28% owned. And it does seem like a very high ownership percentage, but I kind of get it. Last week, Pittsburgh had 2 back-to-back sets, so DeSmith got 2 starts. And this week, they have another back-to-back set, Wednesday, Thursday. So after that, though, Pittsburgh doesn't have any back-to-backs at all next week. So you should definitely drop DeSmith because Jari could be seeing all the starts. Next is Brian Elliott, Philadelphia Flyers, 22% owned. And he kind of righted the ship a little bit, allowing only 2 goals on 20 shots in his last game. So that was kind of nice to see. But right now, I don't trust the Philadelphia goalies very much. I am giving Carter Hart a chance because I do think he's a very good goalie. But Elliott, you can drop safely. Next is Alexander Georgiev, New York Rangers, 21% owned. And it looks like Shesterkin is finally back from his injury. And thank goodness, because Georgiev was not playing very well. Kincaid was even starting half the starts, so you can very safely drop Alex Georgiev at this point. Last but not least is Antti Ranta, Arizona Coyotes, 13% owned. And he's injured once again. What a surprise. He's out indefinitely, so there's no point holding on to him. Kemper will be back before Ranta is back in all likelihood. If you had Ranta, drop him. You can grab Aiden Hill, and he should get pretty much all the starts until Kemper gets back from injury. All right, guys, you've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment, ask me a fantasy hockey related question. I'll be happy to answer you. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.